Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to In the Zone. Merry Christmas to all of our zoners. Hope you had a wonderful and blessed time with your family. Maybe you got some nice gifts, but I just hope that you had some time for reflection and some time to relax and have a good time with family. That's so important. In the Zone is a family first run operation, and we really do appreciate some time during the holidays. But Pete and I, we don't rest. We're back with the hoops. There's plenty to talk about. We're in ho hoop land right here. A little bit of Christmas going on, but there's plenty to talk about. And I was a little nervous that we might not have a ton to talk about today, so I did extend our Power 15 all the way down to the Power 30. Thankfully, Pete was able to help us with the graphics, get it done over Christmas. I mean, it's unbelievable. Pete worked on Christmas Day, just so you know what an animal this guy is, how much he's doing. And it's just unbelievable to see him work and to see him go, because he seems to have roller skates on, doesn't seem to stop. But Pete, let's kick it off with our first three, Pete's Corner.
Okay, while I was on my Christmas Day yesterday, I was working at Mount Holyoke doing some public safety work, and I was trying to watch NBA basketball, which I tried to watch a quarter, forced myself to watch a quarter, and it is unwatchable. It's horrible. Like, Christmas is supposed to be your showcase day. Yesterday, they were eclipsed by games that were pay-per-view NFL games on Netflix. How does this happen? Like, Christmas Day was NBA Day for years. How did they lose that to the NFL?
Okay.
On pay-per-view.
Great question. And I happen to have a little bit of piece of paper here that I had sent, and we tried to make a graphic out of it, but it was just a little bit too difficult because there's just a myriad of things going on there and very difficult. What I did was
there was
I came
too many
up with
Venn diagrams there.
I had a lot of circles. So I'll tell you how I got my circles. I asked my daughter, Jordan, to draw them for me on a piece of paper by using a coffee cup. So she went around with the coffee cup, did a fabulous job, actually. But I do have something on that. I can just go through it quickly. What I called it was the Venn diagram of the NBA. Woven. It's just woven. It's interwoven. It's a lot of tangled web that they have there. All right? Let's start at the top, Pete. Leadership. That's what I crafted out first. They went from Stern to Silver, and neither one of them ever dribbled a basketball in their life. We have to be honest. They're probably great corporate guys. The NBA, the pay has gone way up, but the people are turning away from it for some reason, and that has to be looked at in the leadership. I really see that as a basketball problem, because the leadership, from my opinion, has been basketball bereft for a very long time. They're not making good basketball decisions. Might be making some good business and corporate decisions, but they certainly have not made good basketball decisions, and that's why people are running from them. They just don't have a good feel. One of the reasons is also every time you choose profit over product, the leadership is going to go for profit every time, and you're going to have a product enhancement or what they call a de-enhancement. Your product's going to go down. Your product's not going to be. They have some bad friends, the NBA. We've talked about that on previous shows. No need to go at that in length. But they have some bad friends. They do business in some places that a lot of people find reprehensible, and they're pushing their product in places with some rough places that, aren't exactly human rights humanitarians. And so there's that little bit of a rub there. And actually, I didn't get into this with Woj, but actually we talked about Josh Hawley last week. Josh Hawley and Woj got into it one time, and that was over the NBA's relationships in China and some of what goes on there. But also I would say the leadership has allowed, we've talked about this also on the show, for the European game to just completely take over the NBA structure. And basically they've interwoven this into the game, and it's problematic because our guys just aren't very good at it. Our players aren't very good at it. They're not raised in that style. They're not raised playing that type of basketball. I assume over time they will be, and there'll be some catch-up, but right now they're at a deficit. All right, the media, Pete. The media, one of the reasons we started this show, the media, their representations and how they are, just really rough right now, to be honest, with everybody. I mean, it's one of the things that the podcasts and some of the social media that's taking over right now, they're having such great success, and the establishment media absolutely under assault right now. they're absolutely under assault right now. So I would imagine that a little bit of a hybrid might be more apt in the future. You know, we'll talk about that a little bit. But Pete, right now, the NBA and the media, it's way too centralized. It's way too centralized, and social media is breaking down that door every day. They play house party music, Pete. They play house party music. You know, all they do is play the same music over and over again, and it's house party music. People are getting sick of it. Accessibility. People are saying they don't know when the games are on. They don't know where the games are. All of this stuff, is it streamed? Is it out here? Is it there? Is it? People used to be able to pick up ESPN, watch the game, and they enjoyed that. They put it on one of their regular channels, and they would enjoy that. Right now, they're not seeing that, and it's a problem. Okay, they've gone a little bit, you know, into forums where they shouldn't be. You know, we referred to that a little bit last week. No need to hammer it home, but they're into forums, some places where the NBA, you know, in their social voice probably has stepped over the line a little bit. People want to see basketball as opposed to that. And again, they've approached this thing with hype over knowledge in the media. They've really looked at going into a very hype situation. I'll only call out Stephen A. Smith, maybe one of those guys on ESPN. Very, very hype situation where, you know, you're just doing things, you know, that I don't know. I think it's sometimes it's to draw viewers. I guess that's part of the game.
Stephen A. Smith plays a character on TV.
I assume.
I've seen him on other interviews where he's really mellow.
Yeah, he's trying to mediate himself a little bit. He jumped into the political forum a little bit here last week, a couple of weeks ago, especially around the election. He's been critical of some of the things Democratic. I don't really know if that's a good place for him or not, but that's what he's trying to do right now. Okay, the play, another one of our bubbles, the play, it's been bad, all right? You got zero defense. You got three-ball junkies out there. These guys are just absolutely just freezing up on that three-point line. We used to refer to it as an easy pass line, you know, on our thing. So you don't need to pay a toll to get through there. You know, our guys would just stop there, and you know, it'd be like they have to pay a toll. Non-violations, okay? We call them non-violations. You can walk from half court now. You can pick the ball up, tuck it under your thing like it's your school bag, and walk down the court and make a layup. Nobody calls any violations anymore. Some of the other parts of the officiating as well, we're going to talk about that in depth a little bit later on tonight in the show, a little bit later on today in the show, but some of the officiating makes you head scratch as well. And again, in the play, the Euro style is one of these things. If you had the Venn diagram, it'd be showing up in quite a few of these bubbles. The wealth transfer. You know, we got $60 million guys who can't go back to back. You should have kept that to yourself, man. You shouldn't have put that out there publicly. You should never have allowed the public to consume that. Because once they did, what they get to consume on the other side are the high ticket prices, the concession stands, the licensing that you guys all get and are favorable to you guys, where they have to buy the jerseys for their sons and daughters when they go to the game. The pay-per-view stuff that's almost in the NBA right now as far as viewing it. You know, it's almost a pay-per-view situation. I think it's problematic. All right, I'm going to give you my last bubble in my
It's not about the fans. It's about that.
It's about money, but I always say this on this show. It didn't have to go that way.
Right.
You could have made a boatload of money and kept your product strong. They're not mutually exclusive.
Right.
Okay, now we're into coaching. All right, that's been a huge problem in the NBA. Going back to when I was a kid, I looked up some of this stuff. It made me laugh, Pete. It made me laugh. I'm going to go through a little bit of that. But basically, it's basically been the hiring. Now you got a guy like J.J. Redick, who never coached a day in his life, is a franchise the leader of one of the greatest franchises in the history of the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers. That young man has never, ever in his life coached a single game. So that's part of it as well. All right, you're making it more into entertainment than it is about real basketball. All right, the carousel that goes on. They haven't fired anybody this year. We're 25, bunch of games in. They haven't fired anybody this year, but I think it's coming. All right, but it is a carousel, but it's also a Hotel California. You can never leave. Why, Pete? I've always wanted to really go into depth in this show, maybe. Why is there such a problem with moving coaches from college to the pros and pros to college?
Yeah, I don't get the leap there.
Right, and it's been really, really hard to have done. Patino tried it. Calipari tried it. A lot of those guys tried it and came back to the college game. That might be a whole nother segment for another show, but that's part of it as well. They're both playing basketball, but somebody's playing something way, way different than the other guy because the coaches aren't transferable. That's one of the things that I would say if you really looked at some of the root problems of this, you would have to look at the coaching and some of the hiring. All right, their experience, their X's and O's. I watch some of these games. I'm a basketball coach for a long time. I'm not saying that we run the best stuff in the world, but we run stuff. We have stuff. We have calls that come off our bench for certain situations in certain times. I mean, it's crazy. If you watch the end of that Laker Warrior game last night, you'd be shaking your head. Years ago, they declared it a players' league, Pete. They went out and they go, the NBA is a players' league. Maybe that was the case as well. But again, the public affirmation of that just put every single coach in the box, put every single coach in a place of being demasculated, being emasculated, being taken in the locker room and being made second tier over all of the players that are in that locker room right there. Okay, Pete, I think we covered that. Let's go to shot number 2.
All right, after initially getting punched in the mouth off the beginning of the season, is UConn the team we thought they were? They got a 6-game win streak, and their last loss was to an unranked Colorado on November 26th. But since then, they've beaten teams like Dayton and Baylor and Texas and Gonzaga. Are they the team we thought? Are they going to make another run?
Great question. Great question. I've been asking myself this question as well, and can they, if everybody remembers from 2 years ago, they hit that accelerator pedal at the right time. And guess when that time was, Pete? Right now. Right when you're alluding to what you're talking about right now in that question, layered into that question is the exact truth. They just kicked it on. And this is usually the time when they kick it on. So I'm going to tell you right now, this guy Hurley is a genius. All right? People may not get it, and I understand that, but this guy is a genius because he knows what his team needs in every moment that they need it. And when they lost those 3 games, that was actually cathartic and healing for them because now they know what they got to go through, and now they know that he's going to take them through that. But it was genius that now I'm looking at it in retrospect. I know a lot of people are going, is this guy crazy? Is this guy lost it? I tell you right now, he's a mad genius.
It
folks.
looks like he's coalescing the team.
He's a guy. I'll tell you. He's always learning from what I know about him. All right? He's always learning. I mean, he grew up in a house with a basketball coach who's one of the greatest of all time. One of the greatest high school coaches of all time is in the Naismith Hall of Fame. So you grew up in that house, okay? But he's always learning. And this is what I mean. This is the stuff I pick up, and I hear this stuff, and I go, this dude really is a genius. He went for about an hour and sat down, and when I heard this, I said, they get it. They get it down there because this is exactly what you are as a basketball coach during a timeout, okay? He went and interviewed MMA corner guys, those guys who put the stool down, and when the fighters on Queer Street, when the fighters gotten punched in the face, all of these times, what do you say to that guy on the stool? Because it's roughly about the same amount of time.
Yeah.
I got 60 seconds or I got 30 seconds to say something to these guys, and it's got to matter. It's got to be impactful. And he went and sat with MMA guys who are corner guys and said, what do you do with that 60 seconds? And then I watch his huddle, and I see him and the guard, Aiden, going at it on the sidelines. I said, he's genius. I said, it's a genius move. And then I'm watching the rest of this stuff, and I'm seeing the way he's stirring this thing and the way it's going. Pete, answer your question in short, yeah. Keep an eye on him. Keep an eye on him. The one thing I will say is that I think they will walk into a little bit more of a difficult, although I don't know. Marquette was really good last year. There's some teams. But I think the Big East are a little bit better this year. The Big East is going to give them a little more resistance this year, but that might just help them. That might just help them because when they get going, it's really not resistance, it's backdraft. Once they start going into hyperspace, everything else is backdraft. So To answer your question in short, Pete, I think they're going to start to rev it up. I think they're going to start to go. Do they get all the way to 3? I don't know, but that's a baseline. It's a baseline, and we're going to enjoy covering it all year long. Shot number 3, Pete, from deep.
All right, from deep. Now you're getting your players back after the holiday break here. How do you bring them back into the fold and refocus them for your stretch run to conference tournaments and potentially an NCAA bid?
We test. I have several drills that I do at the very beginning of practice that I'll know who was in a gym, who was working out, and who was having seconds of turkey. I'll know instantly. All right? There's only 3 drills I need. And I tell these guys this right away. Okay? These are the only 3 drills I need to know about you as a basketball player. We're going to do those first 3 drills as soon as we get in the door, and I'm going to know. And then I'm going to know what I got to do from there on out, too. You know, I got this, I got that, I got to build this, I got to build that. That needs a lot of work. But I think knowing the group that I have right now, they've been working, they've been after it, they haven't had a lot of downtime. When I get into that gym, I think my first 3 drills are going to go pretty good. Just
so
to
you've
guess.
developed like an assessment program. It's a quick and dirty assessment going, okay, this is where my team is at right now, and this is where I need to go to get to the end of the season.
Because nothing changes. You know, our plays aren't going to change. Our defenses aren't going to change. Our assistant coaches aren't going to. Nothing changes.
Because those are built around the team you got.
Right. And so you have to say it's about conditioning. It's about keeping your rhythms. And it's about attacking things that you started with the beginning of the year that you might have kind of glossed over a little bit because you needed to get other things covered and your time was short. You know, you might want to go back, review. And we like to review a lot, you know, and really, really revamp. This is what we're doing because we have a complicated book. We don't just have, you just don't walk into our place and we can roll the basketball out. And we have a pretty complicated book. I looked at UConn's book. Their book's pretty complicated. So we have a complicated book. You really got, it's like, I told our guys like this is going to be the toughest class you ever taken here. This is going to be the hardest class you've ever taken at Westfield State. That's what I tell our guys all the time. Now, I don't know about anatomy and kinesiology. You know, that's pretty hard too. But that's the way we roll, Pete.
All right,
we get them out, we run them, we see who took care of it. Right now, I have a pretty strong senior group, so I'm pretty sure they took care of business. If they didn't, you know, I got a couple of days where I can take care of business too. You know, it's all about with me right now is what pace do you want me to move at? Because I'm shot out of a cannon right now. Second semester, I'm ready to go. I've been sitting at home drawing up plays all day. I've been watching game after game after game. Ooh, I like that. Ooh, let me see if I put that in. Oh, my God, my players are going to come back now. They're going to go, oh, my God, he's at it again. And so the mad scientist was in the lab over the break, and now he got 62 new plays and options and turns and twists and new language. I'll tell you what I really do, though, and this is one of the things I think I became better at as a coach. I teach language. So that we now speak the same language.
Oh, okay.
You know, what's DHO? It's dribble handoff. You know, what's RAM? What's Spain? You know, and then when I teach the language, then I can move in that language anywhere I want. Once I teach them the basis of it, now I can come with, you know, blue twist curly, you know, with a red, white, and blue, you know, sprinkles on top, you know, something like that.
You're teaching the shorthand, yeah.
Right, as the seniors, now they might, you know, if I give them all of that, they might, is he out of his mind? You know, but, you know, it's also about the play time and call as well. I'll give you an example. We have a pretty big playbook, but at crunch time, if we're in a close game, that playbook gets a little smaller and smaller, where we have, over time, with my assistant coaches, sat down, used our video equipment, used our different stuff, and said, what's working?
Yeah.
We're running these plays. Where do we score the most? Where do we get the most benefit? What are we getting out of this? And so that's kind of where I'm at right now, too. Well, I want return on investment.
Yep.
I want to know what I'm getting out of it, you know? And so that's the fun part. You know, we've been able to, as much as I'm an old dog, you know, I get new tricks every once in a while, and the technology's a new trick, and I like it. The technology's a new trick, and I like it. A lot of these coaches are too driven onto data. You know, the technology I like is the piece where I can take a film and clip it and cut it up. And that way we don't have to watch the entire film. I can just show pieces of it that I want them to see. And that way our attention span stays good, and then we can just review and go over the pieces that I'm talking about. And so that's the part of it as well.
Yeah, you're using it as an augment instead of a primary.
Right. And so what I also know that is there's a bunch of dudes sitting around right now. They're sitting around their computer going, what is Sutter doing? Those are my opponents. Those are the other coaches. And they're sitting there with their video on and going, oh, my God, this is what he's doing. Oh, yep, I see that. Okay, we got to prepare for this, for that. And so with me, and I don't want to say this publicly, but what the hell, Pete? They might not be listening. But with me, every single play that I ever draw up, that I ever make, that I ever put in is basically built around the talent that I have at that moment.
It has to be.
Every single one of them has a trap door.
Yeah.
Every single one of them got a trap door where if that coach is sitting at home and he's watching and he's watching and he's watching, we break the trap doors out in league. We let them see what we got. We let them see what we got. We let them see what we got. They get used to it. They scout it. Their team starts playing the play, and then we hit them with the trap door. And then once you break that way, then you can go back to your regular, every once in a while, trap door. But as long as they know that trap door is there that they can fall into, their defense becomes a lot looser,
sure,
and a lot easier to deal with. But, Pete, those might have been your best three. That might have been your best three questions.
I keep trying.
All time. Let's roll to NBA Power 15, but we're doing the Power 30. We're going to move. We're going to groove. Holy smokes, Pete. It's the Cleveland Cavaliers all over the place on the top of that thing. They have not relinquished. They have not given it up. I'm going to say it right now also. I'm a little concerned about our Celtics. They lost to the Magic the other day, lost to the 76ers on Christmas. We'll talk about the NBA Christmas Day a little bit more in depth, but I'm a little concerned about them. These standings that you have in front of you did not reflect the Christmas Day results. Okay, so we could update them for you as we go through, but that's not really necessary because it really wouldn't have changed our alignment that much. Okay, so you go Cleveland, OKC Thunder. This team might be the best in the entire NBA right now. I'm going to watch them in Cleveland go at it, but they lost Chet Holmgren, one of their top big men inside, a really tough injury. He's going to be out for a while, but they have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, another of really, really good pieces in there, and they're just doing great stuff. I mean, it's without Holmgren, I'm surprised that they're as buoyant as they are. Boston Celtics, Pete, 22-7. Can make that 22-8 now, and they dumped one of the 76ers yesterday. Pete, a rare sighting, almost as rare as the spotted owl out in Zimbabwe. I don't even know if that's a thing, but I just made it up on the fly. The 76ers had Maxey, Embiid, and Paul George in the lineup at the same time. Rare. It might have been a first for this year. They gave the Celtics a beat down the other day with that lineup, though. They could be something. I don't know if they're too far out of it right now. I mean, you got 30-game cohort out of an 82. I don't know if they're done or cooked by now. I assume not, the way the East is. I think you can show some buoyancy there and rise. Houston Rockets, if you go Cavaliers 1 as a surprise, Houston Rockets also a big, big surprise. Man, they're doing great stuff. 20-9. Nobody would have told you that at the beginning of the year. Memphis Grizzlies doing good stuff. 20-10. They've moved Edey in and out a little bit. The big guy is moving in and out. He's playing solid. He's been injured. I think they put him in the G League for a little bit as well, too. New York Knicks at 6. This team right here might be the team that's playing the best basketball in the last 10 games of anybody in the NBA right now. The Knicks playing very good basketball. I know I'm a New Yorker, and it might be a hometown plug, but they were in the Garden yesterday. They beat Wembanyama and the Spurs. Mikal Bridges, 40-piece McNugget to take down Wembanyama's 40-piece McNugget. The McNugget Wembanyama dropped in the Garden was a thing of rare beauty. He played really, really well. Just a really rare talent, unbelievable. Dallas Mavericks, they're right there at 7, but everybody in Dallas has their collective breath held right now because Luka walked off last night with a very, very weird kind of injury where he was just kind of holding the ball, stepped onto somebody's foot. turned around, signaled to the bench that they needed to get him, and then took him out. He went to the locker room. And so if Luka's out for any length of time, that's certainly going to have significant impact. You got a situation where one of your guards goes out, like Tyrese Maxey was out for the 76ers. That's bad. He's one of your scorers. He does a lot of things for you. But when you lose a guy like Luka, who's a triple-double machine, I mean, that's going to be a lot of things that have to be replaced, and you don't have that guy on your bench. So the load now goes more to Kyrie, and the load now is going to go more to Klay Thompson, which might actually be beneficial to Klay Thompson because the increased reps might get him going a little bit. All right, Orlando Magic, 19-12. They beat the Celtics the other night. I just don't know how they're doing it. Suggs has been out. Banchero's been out. They have so many injuries in and out of there. Franz Wagner now out. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, but they're doing it, and they're doing a great job because they've had probably, if you say games missed to injury of starters, I'd say they got to be right up there as one of the highest. Denver Nuggets, 16-11. Watched them last night. I just don't know what's up with this team. They're not the same championships team that we saw, although a lot of the pieces are still intact. They brought over Russell Westbrook from the Clippers, and I just don't know with them right now. I'm worried about them. Milwaukee Bucks, the big cup winners, 16-12 right now, and they're been with the Knicks in the East. They are the two hottest teams right now in the East. The Clippers and the Lakers back to back here. We got them at 17-13 and 15-13. Give the Lakers another shot, 16-13, as they were able to eclipse the Warriors yesterday in a home game. In a road game on Christmas Day, which was a good win for them. I would really, this is just a piece of advice. You got the game, and it's tied, okay? And you got Wiggins out on the wing playing defense for the Golden State Warriors, and there's this guy who screams about Laker defense all the time. Well, the Golden State Warriors need one of those guys to sit there, stare at his computer screen, and scream about their defense as well. Because the scenario is this, tie game. At the end of the game, Steph Curry hits a big three to tie the game. Now you got about 8 seconds left in the game. The Lakers call timeout, move the ball up to half court. They inbound. The play looks like it busts. They throw it to Reeves on the wing. Now you got Wiggins covering Reeves on the wing. I'll tell you, first order of business right now, don't get beat. There's only 8 seconds left in a tied game. Don't get beat. Austin Reeves isn't the fastest guy in the NBA. He goes right around Wiggins for a layup to end the game and becomes the game-winning shot. Unbelievable. Now, if Austin Reeves hits a three over the top of you and it's a game winner, boom, but I get it, but to let him go just right by you with 8 seconds left in the game and give up a layup, I mean, that's why you're losing, Warriors. That's why you're losing. Miami Heat and the San Antonio Spurs climb in 14-15. Nicely done there. The Warriors are struggling. Curry put on a good performance yesterday in the Garden. In his home court, but it just wasn't, in that Christmas Garden game, where they go and they have the LA Lakers and him and LeBron go at it, and it just,
yep.
He's been struggling though. He's really been struggling. I don't know what's up with his game right now. Could be an ankle injury. The Spurs, Wembanyama, they're coming. I saw some of his comments after the game with the Knicks. It was a tough loss they had in Madison Square Garden. Mikal Bridges played beautifully. What a game. But Wembanyama played great as well. But basically, he gave his team a little bit of a chin shot, a little bit of a jab, uppercut, where he said, we got to be able to finish. We got to be able to end these games and win, and we have to have that hunger and that mentality. And to see the young man step up and kind of own the locker room like that, I think the Spurs are in for a little bit of a good spot here because he's something else. I really, you got to say it. The Spurs are in 15. Pacers are in 16. Halliburton is starting to assist. He's fifth in the league right now. He's back to passing the ball, getting everybody involved. I see them maybe having a little bit better of a second stanza here than they did in the first. The Hawks, Trae Young, he's assisting. He's a point guard dishing the ball. He is rhyming and diming over there in Atlanta. Multiple 20-assist games. Unbelievable. The Timberwolves, they've lost 3 in a row. They won yesterday, so they took them off that schneid, but 14-14, 15-14 right now. Probably one of the biggest disappointments in the NBA right now as far as the year is going. Right next to them, another disappointing team, the Phoenix Suns. They played last night late. Again, they just have a lot of injuries. They have a very fragile lineup, if you ask me. They miss a lot of games due to injury, and when they don't have their lineup all together, it's not very good. And when you look at DeAndre Ayton kind of wasting away where he is, I mean, they could really use him right now. I don't see that Beal was, over the 2 years that he's been there, certainly not a lot of return on that investment. Here's a surprise. Pistons in the 20 spot. They have really, really risen. Cade Cunningham has this team. He's driving it, moving it. They're doing good stuff. I got to give them credit. Last year, they were one of our DFLs, Pete.
Yep.
They were dead last in almost every category last year. Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan's Chicago Bulls, 13-17. Billy Donovan, they got to start playing better defense or they're going to start calling you Billy No D. Sacramento Kings, 13-17. Another, they're on an L7 right now. I mean, an L4. They've lost 4 games in a row. Another team that, as a baseline, you would say is a little bit of a disappointment. The Brooklyn Nets, about what I thought for them. Everybody had them way, way down in the 28-30, spot. I think they're all right. They're doing okay. They're nothing, great, but they got a decent lineup that's fighting, playing. Clowney's been good for them. Cam Thomas, I think, is an NBA kind of underserved superstar. And you got Philadelphia 76ers. If anybody can go up, anybody has the chance to rise, it's going to be these guys. I think if they can keep that lineup intact, it's a good lineup. But
if they're stars that only play.
If anybody saw Embiid shooting around the other day, he's in a shoot around. He turns around and there's a rope behind him that keeps all the spectators off the court. He trips over the rope, trips over the end of the court, and falls down onto the ground. If anybody wonders why this guy gets hurt all the time, it's because of stuff like that. It's unbelievable. Portland Trailblazers 9-20, showing signs of life actually. Because last year they were really, really not a great team. Now you get into the really, really bad stuff in the league here, Pete. And this is where, again, all the draft picks are going to wind up. Utah Jazz might get the number 1 pick this year. And some player, Cooper Flagg, is going to go out there, and it's going to be awful. It's going to be awful for them. And I'd like to see the NBA maybe go to a 30-team lottery and try and improve things there. But you got Utah Jazz breaking down here, Toronto Raptors breaking down. We went through this last week. The bottom 3 of the East and the bottom 3 of the West are just atrocious. You got the Washington Generals, Pete, the Wizards, okay? They are, here's a good one for you, Pete, 19-90 since last year.
Ouch.
19-90. And we have the Charlotte Hornets, Pete. You know how much I like to give out nicknames, Pete. Well, we put the Hornets down there in the 30 spot. And I like nicknames as much as anybody. They are now known because of Pete's reporting, Pete's in-depth story brought to us last week on In the Zone. They are now known as, Pete, the Humbug Hornets. Andre Drummond, the greatest rebounder of all time, according to Andre Drummond. Now, if you want to know who the greatest rebounder of all time is, ask Andre Drummond. If you go to a statistics list, his name's not anywhere on there. But ask Andre, and he'll tell you it's the greatest rebounder of all time. But, Pete, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that our guy, Andre Drummond, had the greatest rebound of all time.
Okay.
He was ejected from the game the other day. And this referee comes out. It was just terrible. Terrible the way they ejected him. He didn't deserve to be ejected at all. No way. And I believe Wembayana was in on the play. And it was a little bit of a skirmish. He winds up falling down. The ref comes out and tees him up and points to the rafters and throws him out. Everybody's looking like, oh, my God. So there he goes down the tunnel. The referees huddle up in the powwow. The Hakaois, the smoke, it starts to signal. You see it. You hear the ref turn around and go, and it was a female referee. So I felt bad because she was getting chewed out here pretty good. It didn't optically didn't look great. And I'm afraid that the NBA, instead of telling their guys not to chew out the referees that way, they'll have the female referees just disappear because that's what the NBA does. But anyway, they go over and she says, I effed up. And she threw him out, but then brought him back into the game. So he was ejected, then unejected, and brought back. Basically, he was rejected by death from the Guyver. And now he's back, and that might be the greatest rebound of all time. He also made a comment, and so did Joel Embiid, that they will be unable to perform in back-to-back ejections anymore. Okay, Pete, follow the money, baby. Give me that thing, Pete. Give it to me, baby. Give me that money cash sign. Let it rain, because I'm gonna knock your socks off right here. Okay? The Golden State Warriors, the year they drafted Steph Curry, 2009, their valuation, $315 million. Curry's rookie year, today, 24, 25, in 15 years, the Golden State Warriors are ready for it, Pete? $9.1 billion.
Woo!
From $3.15 million to $9.1 billion in 15 years. Holy Amazon. All right, Pete, we're going to go to In the Zone stat leaderboard here. We got some points for you. Giannis is holding up. The Joker right behind him at 30.9. But Giannis is out there at 32.7. He's up there. SGA, got to have MVP consideration on that name. Say his name, Pete. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Oklahoma City. He's the reason they're doing as well as they are. 30.6. LaMelo, airball, 30. Jason Tatum, 28. Tatum had a monster game the other night as well. Assist, Trae Young, 12. And he's way up there. Cade Cunningham, 9.7 for the Pistons. One of the reasons that they're doing as well as they are this year. The Joker, this is why he's in everybody's MVP conversation, especially the boys out in Bally's, out in Vegas. And then you got LeBron and Halliburton. We're not talking about Tyrese Halliburton here, we're talking about, okay? We are not talking about weapons of mass destruction here. We're talking about rebounds, Karl Towns, Sabonis, Zubac, the Joker again, and Anthony Davis hanging on. Blocks, Victor Wembanyama reclaiming at 4.0. He's got a 4.0 GPA, folks. Kessler, 2.9. Anthony Davis, 2.2. Miles Turner, 2.1. Brook Lopez, 2.0. Okay, we got Santa's in the zone. Naughty and nice list, Pete. Right the day after Christmas, rocking and rolling. On the nice list, we got SGA. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's nice. He's just nice. Jason Tatum, 41 points, 15 rebounds, 9 assists the other night for the Celtics. Monster game. We still got him penciled in as an MVP candidate because he's coming on now. Cade Cunningham, he's got the Bucks on he's got the Pistons firing on different cylinder than they did last year, and he's one of the main reasons for that. Trae Young, I love guards that pass the ball. I love guards that get everybody involved. Back-to-back games or multiple games with over 20 assists this year. Keep it rolling, big fella. Franz Wagner till he got hurt the other day. Man, what a surprise he's been in Orlando. One of the great reasons that Orlando's doing it. He also gets to play with his brother, which I imagine is pretty cool. I don't think a father-son duo like LeBron and Bronny is I think there's a little bit of a dynamic there that's a little squishy for me. But if you got your brother playing with you, that's got to be pretty cool. Tyler Herro from the Heat, they're talking, really seriously talking, and now even Jimmy Butler's talking about it publicly, saying that he prefers to be traded. He wants out of Miami. And so if I was Miami, go get it. I'd get him out of there because you got a culture there. You want to keep your culture. I understand it, but you could also get a lot for him. Right now, I would say if you hold out right now as these teams go in and these teams are looking for that MVPs, that last piece, that's not an MVP, but it's an MVP. It's going to be one of those little pieces that make you different. Can he go to the Dallas Mavericks right now and help them? Can he go to the Knicks and turn them into an Eastern Conference powerhouse? Would the Celtics jump in on Jimmy Butler to add another wing? I would say that I wouldn't really go for that if I was the Celtics, but these are some of the things you're talking about. Does Miami say, hey, we prefer to get him out of the Eastern Conference so we don't have to look at him all of these times as an opponent? Does he go out and help the Lakers? Yeah, he does help the Lakers. Does he? But what are the Lakers willing to give up in order to get him? Would the Heat take Rui Hachimura? And Reeves, or Rui Hachimura and the kid from Tennessee, maybe they would. Donovan Mitchell, Jokic, they're all on my good list. Jimmy Butler, we got him on the naughty list. He wants out. But publicly saying stuff, I want to get out of here while you're still in uniform, I don't like it. Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, the Leg Law Firm, they've all made the naughty list. Get in uniform, fellas. Get in uniform. The Charlotte Hornets, certainly on the naughty list. Pete, the humbug Hornets, of course they're on the list. Scrooge, LeBron James, we got him on the list. Get in your stance, big fella. You're setting an example for everybody. You're not here just to pad your stats. Klay Thompson, let's go, Klay. Let's get it going. Draymond Green, Pete, we're going to go right to that right now. Dirty Draymond at it again. Okay, two guys in between them. Look at this. Just pulls them to the ground, like locks in arms with them and locks his arms up and pulls them to the ground. And now is complaining to the ref that he's gotten a technical foul. He's actually complaining about this. Roll it back one more time for me, Pete. Just watch if we can get a little closer to it. First off, I don't know how these two guys go down. You know, he looked like bowling pins right there.
He did a suplex.
But he locks his arms and just jumps to the ground and pulls them down.
He suplexed them.
Yeah, get him out of the league.
That's a WWE move. He did a suplex on him.
Get him out of the league. Okay, Pete. Let's get him out of here. Get him off my screen too. Steve Kerr. He's on our naughty list for what you did to Jason Tatum. He's on the naughty list for what you did to an Olympian, a guy who's one of the most respected players in the NBA. We hope at Golden State that you guys don't make the playoffs out here in Boston. We hope that every single game goes out. We wait until they say, hey, ESPN, breaking news, Steve Kerr has been fired. Kendrick Perkins, little willy-nilly perk, we don't like it. Plus, you turned on your hometown Celtics. We gave you the Benedict Arnold Award as the Trader of the Year. And Perk, you're into this predatorial stuff. No good. All right, Pete, quickly, Christmas Day. Christmas Day, it started out with the Knicks in San Antonio, 117-114 in Madison Square Garden. A great game, a really good game. It actually was a good game, but it's still difficult to watch. And you say, why? You're having good games and they're still hard to watch. One thing I would do, and I'll give the NBA this one piece of advice, and I promise you, Adam Silver, at a later show, I'm going to come back and give you some solutions. All right, I'm not a guy who just wants to sit here and tell you all your problems. I'm going to give you your solutions, and I'm also going to give you one right now, okay? Shorten things up. There's too many games, and the games are too long. Shorten the game, shorten the season. These guys can't play defense at any length of time. One of the reasons is their legs are shot. Their legs are burnt because of so much competition. There's two right there for you, Hi-O Silver. All right, Dallas against Minnesota. Minnesota, once Luka went out, it was bad. Minnesota, they're starting to look okay to me. This Philadelphia team, if they can keep it on the floor, they took the Celtics off the floor, and it was in Boston Garden yesterday. And when I saw the line, I said, I think the bookmakers are worried about this game because they had the Celtics favored by 5.5 points only over the 76er team that's been nothing but woeful all year. I said, they got Embiid back, they got Maxey back, they got George back, and the boys in Vegas are the first ones to know it. 114, 118, almost came back in that one. The Warriors and the Lakers went way down. We talked about getting wiggy with it. Just letting your man drive right around you at 8 seconds in the game is not really conducive to winning. 115-113. And it was a huge three-pointer by Steph Curry that tied the game. It really sent it into overtime. And then you got Phoenix and Denver was the end of the game. And end game. I mean, the NBA started a game last night, and I'm not complaining about it because I'm an espresso drinker and I like to stay up late. But they started that game at like 10:40 last night. That game started at 10:40 last night. Not even I could stick around till the end of it. Okay. Alex Caruso in our latest segment of The High Price of Mediocrity. Okay? Just re-signs. It was so important for him to re-sign a deal. I mean, I get it, but I mean, right now, they needed to re-sign this guy. I guess it was there is contractual stuff at play here. But anyway, 4 years, $81 million, Pete. That's $20 million a year. And you say, wow, they got a guy at 60, but this guy only at 20. Okay?
What?
He's now locked in with the OKC Thunder through the 28-29 season. All right? Here you go, Pete. All right? Put your hood on. Grab your hat. He averages 5.7 points.
That's what I'm saying. Who is this guy?
2.9 rebounds, 2.4 assists. He's not a starter. The high price of mediocrity. He played 15 minutes the other night to celebrate his new contract. He was 1 for 5 with 2 points.
One word, unsustainable.
Maybe if they, I don't know how you especially when you lock these contracts in. All right, Pete, when they're locked in like that, you're going to have to pay them one way or the other now. So it's unbelievable what they do with the amount of money that's being thrown around. But when you see the valuation of the Warriors at $9.1 billion, I don't know what went into that whole valuation. But I mean, you can see that they got a lot of money to throw around over there. These contracts, you could add up the total of all the contracts per year, and you're not talking about all that money. You're not even cracking $1 billion. But at the same time, when you say a valuation, that means what the team is worth if it's sold, right? That doesn't mean it's necessarily worth all of that. It means you can sell it for that, but if you had to sell it off, I don't know how you would sell it off like that.
Right.
Pete, let's roll into our Super 25 in the zone. I really enjoyed doing this, especially recently, because the TV schedule has thrown our algorithm junkies into a frenzy. They don't know what to do, Pete, because all of these teams that they keep plugging, all of these teams that are algorithmically driven, they're losing, and they can't help but keeping them up in the top. Houston, Duke, these must be like I don't know if they all went there, how it is, because they're certainly not favorable to all the Power Five. When you tell me you got Oklahoma 12-0 and Torvik has them now, I looked this morning at 49. 49. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. The AP's doing a little bit better job than some of these other people. Torvik is completely lost in his numerology. And Ken Palm ain't far behind him. And I think those two guys look at each other's homework, to be honest with you. But let's get started with our In the Zone Super 25. And we got a lot of really, really good feedback on this, because we do challenge the status quo with this thing. As I said last week, I don't get to set the table. All we do is get to tell you what's going on the table. We've watched this season unfold. I didn't expect all of this. It's always a little topsy-turvy, but last year it wasn't at the top. The top was very sedate and very calm with Connecticut, Purdue, Houston, 1, 2, 3 almost the entire year. Now you've had number of teams that aren't in the zone already. Number one. You've had a bunch of number ones already. So let's go through it. Let's give you what we got. Florida, 12-0, best backcourt in the country. People are sleeping on this team. Now, other people have, Torvik has them 6-7. I've seen them. I mean, this is the number one team in the country. Look at their body of work. Look what they've done. Nobody is gluten-free. Nobody.
Right.
And to say, well, this guy beat that guy and this guy beat that guy, but then they beat them and then they beat them. I mean, it's unbelievable. They're 12-0. They belong number one right now. They get knocked off. They got a bunch of tough league games coming off. If they sustain that, then you know they're the real number one. If not, they get bounced, then we'll move them around and go. But today, as of right now, Florida is the number one team in the nation. And the reason for that is because Tennessee, number two. Again, this is a 1-2-3 SEC. But the reason, again, Tennessee, I compiled all of Torvik's numbers. I used his own stuff and fed it right back to him.
Yep.
Okay, I took all of his numbers and I added them up. And when I divided them between the number of games, divided by 12, both of these teams came out with a number. The number was approximately for Florida like 150-something, and the number for Tennessee was 160-something. So there was a 10-point differential in their average. And so I took that as significant, and that's why Florida's our number one, Tennessee number two. Again, they're going to match up soon. They're going into league. Auburn's going to factor in there. Kentucky's going to factor in there. Believe me, that league is really lit up. Auburn, number 3, 11-1. People have them. A lot of people have them number one. I don't have them number one because they got lit up at Duke. They went in and got lit up at Duke. Okay, Iowa State, 10-1. Otzelberger locked into 31-32. Really, really good move by the Cyclones there. And I think this team is just, if you really, really go and you look at the last 4 years, and you say, what's the power grouping of the last 4 years? Iowa State would be in there, folks. The Cyclones have blown a lot of roofs off. All right, Oklahoma in the 5 spot, 12-0. Torvik, it's embarrassing to have them in the 49-50 range where he is. I mean, it's unbelievable. Look at who they've played and who they've beaten. They have some very, very reputable, high-level Division I wins. And again, I was down on this team when they were losing, saying maybe Porter Moser wound up at a football school and it really didn't work for him. I just think it took a little bit longer for them to get rolling here. But I bet they got a boatload of NIL money out there, and I bet they're going to compete significantly from here on out. Don't sleep on Oklahoma because Porter Moser's a very, very good basketball coach. Cincinnati, another team that people are sleeping on. Look at their body of work. They're 10-1. And I'll tell you, they got some guys coming off their bench that are really, really good players. They have depth. They got good, really good starting lineup, really good program. And again, they survived the jump into the Big 12, which even for me, that was a little bit surprising. Mississippi State, keep your eye on this team, Pete. I got them at 7. Keep your eye on this team. It could easily be a Final Four team. I watched them the other night. Whoa. Length, depth, athleticism. And Chris Jans, say what you want about him. He's a pretty good coach. Georgia, 11-1. I don't know why people are down on this team. Asa Newell might be one of the best freshmen in the country. And Coach White's got him pointed in the right direction. This is another SEC team that, is a high reputable, a strong team. I don't know why people are down on them when they're 11-1. I see being down on them when they're 5-5, like Arizona is, but they're not down on Arizona. They're down on Georgia. They got so mad that Arizona was 5-5, they dropped Georgia down some points. All right, Mississippi, 11-1. Talked about this a little bit. Are they holding back on Florida because of the stuff surrounding Golden and some of the Title IX issues? Is that a factor? Or are they holding back on Chris Beard because of when he got jammed up down in Texas? Are they carrying that over to Mississippi? Because if you look at Mississippi's team, at this time, over a 2-year cohort, they were 11-1 last year. They're 22-2. They were 11-0. So you could say they were 21-1 over this time in a course of 2 years. All right, I don't know why people are down on them, but given their body of work, given everything they're doing, and if they can survive their league, man, give them credit where credit's due. This team, again, people down on Oregon, they're loaded. They're loaded, I think, when they saw N'Faly Dante and some of their pieces lose, to the NCAA, from the NCAA to the NBA. I think they thought that was going to be significant. But they got Dana Altman, one of the best coaches in the country, in my book, and really, really a solid lineup. I've watched them twice. Believe me, Oregon is legitimate. Alabama, Duke, and Kansas. Here we go. Those are the guys you thought might be 1, 2, 3. All right, and they got clipped up by the TV schedule. You got Kansas 9-2, Duke 9-2, Alabama 9-2. I like Alabama's losses better than I like Duke and Kansas's losses personally, and that's why I put them 11. And then we got 12-13, Duke and Kansas, and that's it's good. I think that's good for the poll that they got lumped up. That makes this poll solid. Look at the middle of it. Marquette here, they're going to have a good shot to win the Big East, I think. Also, one of the top teams in the Big East. This team right now, Michigan State, okay, Pete, they're coming. Izzo, people were throwing dirt on him. I might have even thrown a little bit of sand on him myself. Wasn't sure, but right now, 10-2. I watched them play the other day. They're playing without fears. Texas Tech, 9-2. Unbelievable program down there. They got athletes. They got depth. Believe me, this team, if they get it all together and they can survive the league that they're in, they're going to be good. Mick Cronin, back with UCLA. Good win over Oregon. Really good win. I wasn't sold on them, but then when I saw them beat Oregon, very close game. I really thought they're ready. They're both in the Big Ten right now. They're 10-2. Texas A&M, 10-2. Wade Taylor, the fourth, one of the best players in the country. He got off to a rough start, just like Sears did, just like R.J. Davis did. He's coming back, though. Excuse me. Maryland, 10-2. I'm going to go out on a limb right now and say that I have said on the show before, I'll say it again, I'll keep saying it throughout the year, I'm not sold as Cooper Flagg being the number one in the zone draft right now. I'm going to throw you two names that are both down in the DMV area. Now, I don't think they're number ones, but I'm going to watch a little bit more. Derek Queen from Maryland, he might be a number one. He might be a number one. Keep an eye on him, folks. I watched him the other day. I was surprised with his bag. I was surprised with his bag. He's got a deep bag. He can, he's not just a big man who's stuck inside. He's got some NBA-ready stuff right now. Very, very excited about watching him in the future. But I think that, that Maryland team 10-2, pretty good. Kentucky 10-2. Had a bad loss to Ohio State the other night, but I expect that they'll revamp. But that loss I had to drop them. It was not a good loss. Connecticut, we moved them back in, Pete, 10-3. They're our only 3-loss team, and because of the aforementioned jump that you just talked about, they have recalibrated. They have gotten it back together. Let's see how long it lasts. All right, but again, they're going into the Big East where they've been dominant. Utah State 11-1, folks. This team's really, really good. 11-1. Drake 11-0. We talked about McCollum. McCollum they brought up from Division II school. They gave him the Drake job. Now they're not. They haven't lost yet. And also that the really good fact, as I dug into this a little bit, McCollum brought up 4 of his own players from the D2 school. He took 4 of his own players, and Drake is not some lower level, basketball conference. They're in a very, very significant mid-major conference. To be 11-0, I think it sends the message to a lot of ADs. Don't try and win the press conference.
Yep.
Get yourself a really good basketball coach and then watch your players respond.
Yeah,
okay?
sure. Yeah.
San Diego State, they're creeping this program again. If you looked at some of the programs, like we said, Iowa State, really, really solid. But again, go back over time and look at the Aztecs record, the long term of what they've done, over the last 5 to 7 years. This program has been nothing short of remarkable. All right. And Pete,
Yep.
With pride, with love, they haven't lost it. They took Niagara to the woodshed the other day. They're 12-1, and they are looking very, very good.
The Bonnies are back, baby.
The huge VCU game looming is going to be a big, big game, a real test to see exactly where we're at. But the Bonnies, Pete, as you said, the Bonnies are back. I don't know how much time we got, Pete. Can you clue me in on that?
You got about 5 minutes.
5 minutes. Beautiful. All right. So the Bonnies are back. Let's jump right into that because we got some team undercover lover right now. We had some players. We said, you're not going to hear these guys talked about in MVP conversations. You're not going to hear these guys talked about in GOAT conversations, but they're having great years. And we talked about that in depth with the NBA and with the NCAA. Now we got some teams we're going to bring you that we think are doing some undercover lover stuff because nobody's going to talk about them that much in that big top echelon where everybody seems consumed in that top 25. Everybody's got a top 25 now too, by the way, Pete. I think it's something of a, we might have to get out of the business now. It's so crowded. It's like Yogi Berra said, nobody goes there anymore. It's too crowded. Okay, St. Bonaventure, though, what a great story. 12-1, significant win over Providence. They had Utah State. And that Utah State team's pretty good. Imagine being 13-0, but the Bonnies are turned right into the Atlantic 10, absolutely primed. The previously mentioned Mississippi State team, very, very good team. Michigan State, Izzo's got them on the move, Pete. I watched them the other day. They're playing with some heart and with that Izzo intensity, and boy, oh boy, are they playing good basketball right now. I don't know what happened to them because I watched them earlier in the year, and I was really concerned, but boy, they turned it on. Pittsburgh, undercover lover. A lot of people in the AP are starting to pick up on them a little bit, doing really good stuff. I think they're going to challenge Duke for the ACC championship. I believe in a moment of maybe clarity or non-clarity, I picked them to win the entire ACC earlier in the year. Mississippi 11-1, Utah State 11-1, Vanderbilt 11-1, Stackhouse fired, bring in a new coach. Guy Byington comes in, and they're going, oh my God, it's going to take forever. Not anymore, it doesn't. Not when you got the NIL dollars floating around. Vanderbilt's 11-1. Let's see how they hold up. I got Missouri 10-2. They had a tough one at Illinois, a game at home at Illinois the other day. Illinois is pretty good, man. They got some really good freshmen on that team. And Liberty 12-1. Really, really good start for Liberty. 12-1 is unbelievable. Our friends down at GW, 11-2, off to a very good start. Headed now to Richmond to start their league play. URI, Archie Miller, 11-1. Doing really good stuff down there at URI. Have some pretty good wins as well. UC Irvine, the Anteaters, Pete, they're 10-2. Gobbling up a lot of ants. High Point, 12-2. I got to mention this one. Columbia, For years and years and years, Columbia has been on the downside. Really, really been downtrodden program. They're 10-1, and they got a win over Villanova.
Wow.
UMass Lowell, locally, 10-1. Oh, 10-4. Excuse me. Here's some undercover lovers, Pete, in the last close with some relationship issues, to say the least. Arizona, we talked about it last week. Take off the rainbow shades and start playing some defense. Tommy Lloyd, call me. I'll fly out to Arizona. I'll spend 15 minutes with your team, and we'll have them playing better defense than they do. I watched them. I'm telling you, there's several things that's got to get cleaned up there, or you're going to get killed all year with them. All right, North Carolina 7-5. People really, really going wild about the 7-5 start for Carolina. Hubert Davis has really got to be feeling the heat a little bit under the pressure. He's a young coach, and right now that's a cauldron right now. But here's their losses: Kansas, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, and Michigan State. Those are the 5 losses they have. Now, I get it. You're 7-5, and North Carolina ain't supposed to be 7-5. Let's see if they can turn it around. They have wins over UCLA and Dayton. Those are the only 2 good wins they have. Everything else has been Cannoli City. You got Creighton at 8-5. These are the tougher schedules, Pete. These are the television schedules that everybody wanted to see except the coaches. All right, Rutgers 7-5. Ace Bailey and Harper. Harper's been great. Bailey, not so much. Not so much. Again, somebody right there, the one and done hurt him, Pete. The one and done cost Ace Bailey money. I'll tell you right now. Certainly on our leaderboard he did. Kansas State 6-5. They're talking about the game at Wichita. Wichita State gave them a beating. It's a Kansas to Kansas rivalry. And Coach Tang was talking about, well, I don't know if we should play them anymore. Stop embarrassing yourselves, fellas. All right? Put up your schedule. Virginia, 7-5, really struggling under the light of Coach Bennett leaving. Miami, 4-8. Somebody texted me before the show and said that there was a talk that Coach Larinaga might be stepping down. We will keep you posted if we hear more on that. Syracuse is 5-6. Get them in a stance, Red, or get them back in the zone. All right, I watched your team the other day. You better get back in that 2-3 zone if you can't play defense better than that. All right, Vermont's 5-7. That's a surprise as well because they're always very, very good. Seton Hall, 5-8, really, really tough schedule for them. Monmouth, 2-10. Colgate, 3-10. Canisius, 0-13. Villanova, 8-5. I heard Jim Christian on TV the other day, and you're interviewing a guy now that's 0-13, 0-14. All right, what a gentleman he was. What an absolute gentleman. Didn't turn on his team. Didn't do any of that stuff that a lot of these high-profile coaches do. I wanted to take the last minutes of the show. Just, it's got to suck not to have any wins. It's got to be a tough locker room. But I would say to the people at Canisius, your players are in good hands with this guy because he seems to have it right. And it didn't start casting aspersions, didn't start trying to tear anybody down, just said we got to do some things better, alluded to those things, and I thought it was a great way to see a coach, under the gun a little bit, certainly, but come out with some grace and humility and handle that question beautifully. So Merry Christmas to Coach Christian. Pete, I think we're out of time. Merry Christmas to everybody. We will not see you before the new year, so Happy New Year. When we start right back, we will have some beautiful, beautiful New Year blessings for everybody to start 25. Pete, I don't know about you, but I got a feeling 25 is going to be big.
Yep.
I got a funny feeling something's going to blow in 25. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it. Everybody, we'll see you next week. You're in the zone.